All right, guys, today we're talking with a new teammate. He's actually serving on my team. He's an electrical engineer, super smart guy. God has brought him through many stories of faithfulness that he's demonstrated to him. He grew up in a ministry household, actually. His father was in full-time ministry. Lots of really cool stories to share with you today.
We get to hear his story as a college student and how the Lord began to work in his heart, how engineering could be applied in missions, a process that he wasn't at first thrilled with, and then the Lord kind of made the pathway clear and opened up the doors for him. We're talking to Ethan Daugherty today. My name is Mike Tapia.
And I'm Cody Hall.
And this is the Go and Send podcast.
Ethan, you recently had the opportunity to travel to southern Kenya to serve among the Maasai people in a ministry that's reaching them. Tell us a little about that trip. What were you doing? What was that experience like?
Yeah, so we took a trip to SonSet with SonSet Solutions. Some of us from the team, it was 6 of us in total. We were initially extending the network connection of the Starlink that they had on at Kajani Farm, which was the ministry partner that we were helping. We were extending their network connection to multiple different buildings on the farm. And then also we were taking a soul ministry toolkit to a widow's home as well. We did all of that, but we also did some other things, some unexpected things, because we initially went to do technical problems, but then ministry is also people, so we were interacting with the people, talking with them. So a lot of it was interacting with the Maasai people, but also being up on rooftops and in attics and all that.
Working on the
and it's so
equipment.
true too. Like, ministry is all about people. And I had the opportunity to go on this trip with you, Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty neat. For me, I know it was unique to be among that people group, the Maasai. What was your impression of like the Maasai people?
It was really like a change of perspective that I saw. Like I was just like, it was just really like helped me to like really see like different perspectives of life kind of thing, because they like just live in a completely different type of lifestyle than us. We live in a lot of prosperity. We live in houses that are sealed up and roofed in like very solid structures. They live in mud shacks and all of that. The farmers, they love their animals and stuff like that. They definitely were very generous. Like even though they were like basically in poverty, they anytime we would go to one of their houses or anything like that, they would just be outpouring in generosity and being so kind to like in what they provided for us, like the food and all that kind of thing, giving us the best kind of thing. So
anytime you go on a trip like that, there's always expectations. You go with expectations. And sometimes, the events on the ground are different. Maybe the setting's a little different. The dynamics are a little different. Were you surprised by anything? Did anything surprise you there?
Not really, because in the time I've done mission trips like throughout my life, really it's just like I've found that you have to be flexible in everything. So I kind of just went in the mindset that things will probably not go expected, so then I wasn't surprised by it kind of thing. So most of the time, like I was, just not going in with a lot of expectation. I just was there to do God's work and just do what he wanted me to do there. So just with that mindset, then it was like, okay, whatever came, I was fine with. I think so.
And I definitely saw that through Ethan, and being on that trip, Ethan is very flexible, and certain things that occurred that maybe others would be like, oh, I can't do this. Ethan had no problem. We were, in a lot of the work that we were doing, we had to install these antennas for a Starlink internet. This was for this Ministries campus, and we had to get in some pretty creepy, tight places and attics, and there's bats flying around, and Ethan's jumping right in. So I do agree that Ethan's very flexible. I think things don't get to him easily, but I definitely also saw that with the generosity of the people and the Maasai people, and it is humbling to see how they're relying on like many of them are believers and how they do rely on the Lord. It struck me with this widow that we were at her house, and her house is not any house that we would think of as a traditional house. It was actually a corrugated metal structure, probably only like 12 feet by 6 feet. And we were able to put a small solar power system in, and just to see her generosity, and her gratitude for that house and for this system, it was definitely striking with that. So what was your impression, like being in Africa and then kind of being able to apply, your technical skills in ministry? How was that? This is the first time in Africa too, doing this kind of a trip.
So I really enjoyed that. It was just like really practical, hands-on of here's what we are doing with our technologies, because we're designing technologies, but then we get to see the results of it like very quickly. Because a lot of the times when we're in the office, we're just like, okay, we're designing these technologies for our partners, but we're not really seeing the impact that they're having. So when I went to Kenya and saw it in action, I was like, oh, our technologies are making an impact. They really are helping these people and our partners, and really changing lives just because of them, and really making people, just be blessed by the Lord and with the technologies kind of thing. So,
and you mentioned, this is first time in Africa, but you also said you've taken other trips too, and you've had to learn that flexibility. What have some of those other trips been? What have those been including?
Yeah, so most of my mission trips have all been in the States before that trip. So it was like a lot of the times was in we did like helping with when Louisiana got hit by hurricanes, that we went up there and helped rebuild houses or different stuff like that, where we were basically that trip I was traumatized because I was in a smoker's home and we were like painting in a room, like with a room that was this big. The walls were like full of the smoke smell, but you do anything for the serving the Lord kind of thing and sharing that love. Sure. And then it was like different trips. Like I did one with a few in Arlington, Texas. We worked with this ministry called Mission Arlington. They basically provide support to families and do VBSs for the apartment kids in low income brackets kind of thing up there, and just kind of provide everything. So that trip, you have to be super flexible because you're working with kids, and they basically don't really tell you the plan until you get there the day. That day, they're just like, okay, this morning we're going to do all of this stuff. And then typically what would happen would be like, oh, actually we need to do this right now, so let's go do that kind of thing on those. So that was a few times that I went up there with my church. But yeah, most of them have been in the States. But it's like, you can do ministry anywhere. Yeah. It doesn't have to be overseas. Your mission field is anywhere. Yes. So like, yes. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good mindset to have that flexibility, because you see it a lot in different short-term ministry trips, or even in missions. Long-term, you can step into a different ministry context, somebody else's context, and think, I know what I got to do, and this is how it's got to happen. Yeah. But having that attitude of flexibility, waiting, learning, kind of seeing what needs to be done, and stepping in that role, it's a good place to be. It's tough to do too. It's tough. Yeah. So, Ethan, you got this ministry the Lord's entrusted to you here at SonSet, and you're working on that. But what we're kind of curious to see what led up to this point in your life. Okay. Now you're here serving. You went to Kenya. You're doing these cool ministry trips. What was like your upbringing? And did you grow up in a Christian family? How did that play out and how did the Lord start to lead your heart?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian home. Both my parents were Christians. They are, and then also I grew up in like a multi-generational Christian family, so like multiple generations back are all Christians. So like that really impacted my just walk and how much I was exposed to like the gospel and all of that, because we would go to church, I would see it in action, like Christ's love all around me because of my family members, all of that. Multi-generational, so it was just like, anytime I was interacting with my grandparents or anything like that, they were, showing the love of Christ, sharing the gospel. I initially became a Christian when I was 3 years old, which is really young. And, a lot of people might be like, oh, is he actually saved or whatever? But I know in my heart that was when the Lord called me, and that was when I was saved. And it really just, from there, it helped me grow with my family. Just my walk with him grew more because it was just, very close access to, with my family all being Christians. My dad was in full-time ministry. So I saw just the walking of people living out their faith all around me that helped me grow in my walk as I grew up in all of that. So, yeah.
What a tremendous blessing that is, to grow up in a household where the love of Christ is evident and it's lived out and it's talked about, and it's not something that everybody can say. And I grew up in a Christian home as well, and I would say very similar situation with one of my grandpas being a pastor, multi-decade ministry. Very thankful for that upbringing. You talked about being involved in ministry with your family, and you talked about your dad being in full-time ministry. What's his career been like? He started a ministry, right?
Yeah, so he started a ministry called Be Broken Ministries in 2003. So that is a ministry that basically helps people in sexual brokenness move to wholeness in Christ. So it's helping men who are in pornography addictions or anything like that, unwanted sexual behaviors or anything like that, helping men out of that, helping women and wives who were affected by that, and then also helping families who have been broken by that. So he's been doing that for the past 22 years, I guess. So it's been it stemmed from his own story of his sexual brokenness, and then how the Lord redeemed him, and then now he just proclaims his story and helps others get over that sinfulness and all that. So
sure. And growing up around that, seeing your father in full-time ministry and serving the Lord so wholeheartedly, when did you start to understand what was going on there? There's a call there. My dad, God is using him in a specific way. When did you start to wrap your head around that?
So I kind of started understanding that my dad was in full-time ministry when I was around 12 or 13, because as a kid I was like, oh yeah, my dad's doing this, but I didn't understand his ministry. But I also just was like, most of the time as a kid I was just like, oh, don't see a dad until after 5 or whatever kind of thing. So wasn't really thinking about it. But when I was 11, 12, 13 kind of thing, I started really thinking about seeing that, and really kind of started thinking about that impact of how he's living his life. Just he is surrendered to the Lord, and it's just an impactful thing to see, your father, I really respect my father and have a good relationship with him, and just seeing him fully surrendered kind of helps you, myself, understand this is the pathway I should go to, and try it out, go full out for the Lord kind of thing. Because it's that the ministry he is in is not an easy ministry to be in. There's many times where he just is comes home and he's just down or upset with people because they were just, he sees their brokenness and they're not getting it kind of thing. They're not moving past it or whatever, but he's still showing the love of Christ to them. And So it's like, it's not an easy ministry to be in, but he still continues doing it because that's where the Lord has called him. So, and that's really how we should all live, kind of thing. It's like what the Lord is calling us to do is share the gospel, live and love people, kind of thing. So live with people and love them as Christ did, which is not going to be easy every time. Like, it's not going to be, he's not calling us to an easy life. The Lord, Christ is calling us to a pretty difficult life because most of the world is against Christ. So,
yeah, and that's, interesting. Your upbringing, to see that you saw practical side of ministry, tough ministry, difficult situations. I'm sure conflicts that come up in different situations, but still pursuing Christ and trying to love people through that and pursuing what God's calling you. I also even just think of your testimony and your dad's testimony too, like the thought, because I think a lot of people can relate actually with your testimony. Growing up, Christian family, didn't necessarily come from some crazy background, but you have it almost like amplified because your dad actually did come from, like, he has a pretty powerful testimony in what he came out of in sexual addiction or that struggle that he faced, but then came to know Christ. But I always think it's important too to remember, like, even those who grew up in a Christian family, like, it is a miraculous thing. Anybody brought from death to life is a miraculous thing, and like, and not to discount those testimonies of growing up in that Christian family and that impact it could have. So you got to see this from a young age. Your dad serving in ministry. How did that affect your thoughts? So you knew, like, you want to be serving the Lord. Did that make you think right away, I want to be in ministry? Or is that like, oh man, I don't want to be in ministry because I see it?
I was like, and pretty much a lot of my life, I didn't really think I was going to go into ministry. And it wasn't because of like the difficulties of ministry or anything like that, but it was more like, since like the Lord I have felt like a pretty clear direction in my life for most of my life. So like when I was, I think 5 years old, I was like, I'm going to be an engineer. But like I wasn't thinking of it as an engineer. I was like a fix-it man kind of thing at five years old. So like through that whole mindset, I was like already kind of in my mind thinking that I was going to become an engineer later on in life, or someone who was like creating things and designing stuff. So I didn't really think of that as in part of a ministry aspect. And really it was like, also it's just like a lot of with ministry in my, like, through when I was growing up, I was just like saw that it was a struggle financially a lot of the times, because it's like sometimes you don't know if you're gonna get the donations that you need or whatever kind of thing. So but I mean, I saw the Lord provide all throughout my life, but it's like, that also had an effect where I was like, an engineer will be pretty financially secure kind of thing. So initially I was not thinking about going into ministry in that aspect. I was kind of thinking, go into engineering, be fine, and all that kind of thing. I was mostly like, a lot of my life, I kind of thought that I would just serve in a church and kind of like have ministry on the side and then a career on the side. So like they would be two separate things, which is not really like how the Christian life it should be lived, because it's really the Lord is calling us to be transformed, and anywhere we're at, we should be sharing a light and shining towards Him, not this is my part of my life and this you can have kind of thing. You shouldn't really separate it really. But I mean, that was a lot of what I initially thought, how I was growing up kind of thing. I'll put my stuff on this side and then Christ's stuff on this side, and then there'll be a giant wall dividing them so then they don't cross or whatever kind of thing.
So thinking like, okay, you're growing up, teenager, you start to see that your dad's ministry, and then you start to really want to move toward engineering, and there's that clear kind of wrapping that God's given you, that you like to fix things, you like to create things, figure out how things work. at what point, most people's story, God takes them through ups and downs, and as you just described, you realized you were separating or putting a barrier between those two things. Was there a point where God began to break that barrier down?
I would say he was breaking that down in the summer between my college freshman year and sophomore year. Kind of just really breaking and grabbing my heart, saying, "Hey, you're not giving me all of this, and you need to do it." Like, so it was more like through that whole summer, like it was just really, there wasn't really any events that was happening in that time that were like causing this. It was just like the Lord was like the Lord was like, just putting it on my heart, saying, "Hey, you're not giving all, like you're not surrendering everything to him, or that I'm not, I'm keeping these things back, or whatever kind of thing." So it was pretty much, it was like, when I already had got in college and after that, but it wasn't really anything that was like happening in my life that was causing that. It was just the Lord really working on my heart during that time. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you feel that from the Lord, that summer because it's so easy to feel those kind of feelings and then practically be like, okay, well, thank you, Lord, but I agree. I know I need to do something. I just don't know what to do, and just not take a step. Did you try to take some steps after that, or how did you like basically wrestle with that feeling, and what action did you take after that?
I definitely did start thinking about it a lot more after that summer. And realizing how like much I had divided with like what I was keeping back and what I was allowing the Lord to grab in my life. And then it was more like throughout the fall semester of my sophomore year was when I actually started trying to implement things and getting involved and with like Christian community, and also because that was when I pledged in Alpha Omega, which was my fraternity at Laterno, which basically was, the whole mission was to build men of God, help them in their walk and grow them. That's the typical fraternity, but like really all of those stuff, like during that semester, what happened during that time, the people I was interacting with, getting to know, and just really I started, applying myself and really trying to get like a consistent time with the Lord each day. All of that stuff really helped me start surrendering more and more that I was keeping back from the Lord, kind of thing. So, yeah.
So as you got more involved with Alpha Omega, what was that ministry like? You talk about it's to build men of God. What did you do? How did you get involved there?
Yeah, so so the second semester I was in it, I became the chaplain of that fraternity. So basically I would have to create the weekly devotionals, pray for them, and basically be a listening ear for anything that they were going through, any of the members going through. So like that started very quickly after I had pledged in there. So it was a very big, I would say that was definitely an impact on my walk with the Lord, because it was like consistently every week I knew, okay, I'm going to be bringing a devotional here, trying to bring these guys closer to the Lord. So then it was also like, well, I better make sure that I'm staying on top of my walk with the Lord, so then I'm not a hypocrite or anything like that. So it was a difficult time, but a very good time of ministry and working, and then like just talking to those guys, the kind of thing. There was just like a lot of different situations through college and family life that, they can be down or not going through having the best time right now or whatever. So it's like I had a lot of difficult conversations through those 3 years of being part of that and doing that ministry. But really it was, the Lord was preparing my heart for just service with them and showing me that ministry is difficult, but I can always lean on Him. I can always look to Him for the help and that I need. So,
awesome.
Yeah, and that's neat that, you had that opportunity to bring devotions and really pour into those guys. And I can think of times in my life where having to prepare some kind of lesson, a Sunday school lesson, or a devotion, it definitely makes you dive a little deeper into Scripture and being prepared for it. I feel like, it's like maybe nobody even heard what I said or something in a Sunday school or a devotion, but I feel like I took the biggest lesson away.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And then I know I heard from you that you kind of got really plugged into your local church too.
Yeah.
How did that take place?
Yeah, so my freshman year of college, I really was like, okay, I really need to find a good Christian community. So Laterno offers a lot of events. So like they have a church fair that kind of like shows about all the different churches in the area. And then really like I was praying about it, and then my roommate and I were like, okay, you want to go to Mobberly Baptist Church on this Sunday or whatever kind of thing. So I was like, okay, sure. And then I really just loved that church and really got involved in it very quickly right afterwards. So through that whole freshman year, I was doing serving in it and helping with the young adult and college ministry a lot. Just really plugged in quickly with that community. And then after that year, I basically stopped. I was working at Chick-fil-A at the time. I chose not to go back, and so I was looking for a job. And I was talking to my young adult college pastor kind of thing, and telling him, hey, I need a job for the semester or whatever kind of thing. So then he was like, oh, we're actually looking for someone to fill in this position as an apprentice. So the next semester I met with the guy in charge of this ministry. It was for the Upward Sports Ministry for that Mobberly was partnering with. So Upward Sports is basically a ministry that provides sports for kids. And basically on practices or game days, they have devotionals. And so they're using that as an opportunity to witness to these kids and these families just through sports. So they're really like trying to provide a good environment for kids to play in sports, because really like if you go to like the city like sports leagues or whatever, they're like kind of like a toxic environment kind of thing. So really like through that ministry, I really got plugged into the church even more. And really it was just like helping out kind of thing. I was helping with the coaches. I was helping with practices. I was like reffing. I was painting fields, basically whatever my boss needed me to do kind of thing. Another thing of just, flexibility in ministry kind of thing. So, but that was really when I saw like some change, like with just plugging into the church, it's just really helpful to your walk with the Lord. It's very encouraging to be working for a church, because really I never saw my work there as like a job. I was just like always having fun doing ministry work kind of thing. So, and it was just like with that community, with that those people that working with Upwards, you just saw, all the things that the Lord can do, and the power that He had, and how because it was pretty much every season there was someone saved. Like one of the kids chose to accept Christ kind of thing. So that was really
soccer?
impactful. So we did flag football
Yeah.
and soccer. So in the fall semester we would do flag football, and this spring semester we would do soccer.
Nice.
And it was kinder through 6th grade. So it was really, like when you ref kindergartners, you're just like, they're not
try to get them to run
Yeah.
toward the ball, not
Yep.
somewhere else.
Yeah, because it's like in flag football, they only remember that they don't want the flag pulled, so then they're just running around the whole field, kind of thing. Or in soccer, they're just trying to kick each other.
Some kind of crazy game of tag or something going on.
Yeah, so you
boy.
have to learn in that moment. You have to learn that kids will be kids, and that they just have such joy in life kind of thing. So
In high school, my younger brother and I, we coached some upward basketball. I think we did 2
cool.
seasons, and then I went away to college. But yeah, during that time in upward, how did that expand your view of what ministry could look like?
yeah, so it really just changed my perspective of it, because it really my perspective of ministry was like, oh, you're going out proclaiming to strangers the gospel, say the gospel, do these nice things to them, or even like plant a church or go on mission trips kind of thing. But it really kind of like expanded my view of it as anything can be done to share the gospel. So during that time, after every season of Upward, we would have a Upward celebration where we would invite a guest speaker in who would proclaim the gospel, and then they would do like a call and response kind of thing. And it was meant to be fun for the kids. So a lot of our guest speakers were like magicians, or one of them was like an American Ninja Warrior who had been on this show, and he would just travel around with an American Ninja obstacle course where the kids could play on it.
Did you get to do it?
I did. I ran up the wall, so that was fun. So, cool. But really, like with all of that, it was like just changed my perspective of it, because I was like, oh, these people are using their unique skill sets and gifts to proclaim the gospel, which my mind initially just went to, oh, I can juggle and proclaim the gospel because I can juggle. So I was just like, oh, that'd be cool to figure out how to, proclaim the gospel through juggling or whatever. I never really initially thought in that moment about engineering. I wasn't really thinking of that unique skill set. I was thinking more of even more unique skill set. I was like, performance or whatever kind of thing. So,
and that juggling actually played out in Kenya. I was there with Ethan, and he's juggling for the kids, and they're all gathering around. So you did get to use some juggling too. That's cool. Wow. Well, that's amazing to get plugged into that ministry. I think one thing that just a takeaway from learning from you too, and maybe encouragement for others, is to get plugged into a local church, because that's not that easy to do, especially as a college student.
Yeah.
I know, like, when I was in college, went to a Christian school, I went to church every Sunday, but like actually getting plugged in, that's like a whole different level. It's more like I'm just gonna study and work on stuff other than that.
Yeah, because it's so easy in college to find any type of community, I would say, because you're around your classmates or you're around it. But it's important in college to find a Christian community, people who can pour into you, who are going to help you grow, and find like people, a community of believers who are going to push you. Like it's going to be difficult at times, but they're going to push you to growth and growing closer to the Lord. It's such a important thing. And like I have like any new place I go to, I'm like, I need to, like any new place I'm going to try to live, I'm like, I need to find a church home, get plugged in kind of thing, just because I've seen the impact of like a good church community in my life, how it helps me so much in my walk with the Lord, and just, fellowship with other believers is so important. Yeah.
If I'm looking back, I think that's my biggest regret. I went to church regularly. I did not serve in the church, and I think probably the single sentence summary that I've heard somebody say since then is like, you really want that church when you graduate and leave to feel that you left, to really miss you. There need to have been a hole left over, when you leave, because you're plugged in so well and you're serving. That's good. I'm encouraged to hear you were involved to such a deep level. I think they're kind of the point around the juggling and then engineering. Okay, the two different skill sets there. I mean, you're now here at SonSet, in the Discover program, a 1-year program focused on exploring what could missions look like. Was there a time when you felt a call to missions? When did the Lord start impressing on your heart along those lines?
It was really in my junior year of college, during a mission emphasis week at Laterno. So Laterno does these weeks throughout, I think it's every year at least. I can't remember if it's every semester, but basically they bring a bunch of different ministry organizations, different missionaries in and stuff like that, and they'll talk to the students, they'll interact with the students, they'll have all of these events that you can talk to these missionaries and ministry organizations. So during that whole mission emphasis week, I was really feeling like this tug on my heart kind of thing, like that the Lord was going to bring me into ministry. But in my mindset, it was like, oh, that'll be like, 25 years from now or whatever, much later down after I've already had a successful career kind of thing. And it was also, I was like excited about that call, but I was also like, well, Lord, does that mean I'm going to have to give up engineering? Because I was really enjoying like my engineering classes and stuff like that. So it was like, well, does that mean I'll have to, give up the engineering kind of things, which initially was like, okay, I don't really want to give up the engineering. So, the Lord really called me in that week. But then after that week, it was kind of like, if you've ever heard of like the church camp high kind of thing, or the mission trip high, after you after the time you come back, you got all hyped up for the Lord during that time at church camp or whatever, or mission trip, and then you get back and then you just go to normal life. So like after that mission emphasis week kind of thing, I had all like this tugging on my heart. The Lord was calling me, and then I kind of just went, okay, like after that week, I just kind of put it in the back burner and didn't really think about it again that much, because I was like, okay, like I got distracted with classes, but it was still like, I was just kind of like, oh, well, that kind of thing. So it was really, and the calling on my life was in my junior year for moving into ministry. But I didn't really act on that until later on kind of thing. So,
yeah. And that is there is highs and lows in life. I think that's normal. That happens. But it's easy. I've experienced that too. Like I remember being in high school and first ministry trip I ever took, a senior in high school, go on and you come back, you're all on fire for the Lord. And then a couple weeks later, your friends are not into it anymore. And you're kind of like, oh, okay. And you kind of lose track of, that, especially without like that's, for me personally, I know I probably wasn't spending enough time with the Lord anyway in some of those emotional highs. I wanted to serve the Lord, but I was just using the emotion and not really feeding it from the Lord and letting Him work in my heart, through Scripture and just seeking Him. But that's, I think that definitely happens, and it's easy to happen. And for you, like you had that spiritual high, and like looking back, what do you think kind of made you like hesitant to keep going, or kind of lost a little bit of where the Lord was calling you?
So I think it was a little bit of my priorities were not in the right place. So like it was more like I was thinking that I'll get a job or whatever. I'll get this degree kind of thing, and then do ministry on the side. So it was still like a little bit of that problem of sectioning things off kind of thing. So I was still working through that a lot, where it was like job and ministry would still be separate kind of thing. So I was still wrestling with that. My priorities were still like not straight kind of thing, because it was like, you just kind of don't really think of things merging together, or sometimes it's difficult to think of, your whole life is dedicated to Christ. So then that means everything, every aspect kind of thing should be, proclaiming the gospel and all that kind of thing. So it was mostly my priorities were not in the right place, that caused me to not act on that ministry calling initially and first, jump it out of the gate kind of thing. So, making sure your priorities is mainly all focused on Christ is the way to move on and actually serve the Lord. Because it's like, if your priorities are all out of whack kind of thing, it's like, you won't actually follow Him, So
was it around this time you went to Israel? You took a trip there?
Yes. I think so. When was that? 20? Yeah, it was right after junior year. Yeah. So
what was going on with that trip?
So that was a trip that Laterno offered. They offered it as a so credits for our Bible courses. So we had to get a certain amount of Bible credit for our degrees at Laterno. So they offered 2 classes that you could take to get credit for. You could take one or both kind of thing to go on that trip. And really, that trip really impacted just how I viewed like my the Bible and the reality of the places that the Bible talks about. It's like, you go to Jerusalem, or you go to the place Jesus was buried, or the place where Abraham was wandering, or like it's like you go to all of these places, the prophets, kind of like where all the fire came down on those prophets of Baal or whatever. Kind of, it's like you go to those places, and then it just really makes it more real and more I would say personal kind of thing. It's like, oh, this is I've like I know the Bible is true and all that, but that was just like really solidified things in my mind. And then really just also like it was for class credit, but it really like was an impactful trip on me, just because it was like really you were experiencing the places of the Bible, and then there was so many times that they would allow us to reflect and like think about it and pray to the Lord and stuff like that. Which was so beneficial, because it was just like I felt like I grew closer to the Lord after that, and was able to trust Him more, and just because it was just the places of the Bible kind of just being there kind of just helps you to see things in a different light. So
sure. Brings the stories to life.
Yeah, kind of jealous. Kind of wish I was
me too.
had an opportunity to go to Israel. That's amazing to see that. And have that time to even reflect and think about scripture and these places. So that was your senior year, or right after your junior year?
So that was right after my junior year.
So then you're going into your senior year, and senior year is that year for college students, unless you're a super senior. But senior year is usually the year that you're graduating, and there's a lot on your mind about the future and what's coming after graduation. And for most students, that's like school's been their whole life up to this point. How were you wrestling with upcoming graduation? What were you pursuing? Kind of what were you thinking were going to be your next steps?
Yeah, so I was looking for jobs in industry. I was applying for a bunch of jobs. I was kind of just like, okay, during senior year, I was like, I just want to get the degree done. Like, that kind of thing. I was like, a lot of my focus was like, very much. And then it was like, I was looking for jobs and applications and different stuff like that. It was like, I wasn't really sure what was going to happen after I graduated, kind of thing. I was not really sure where the Lord wanted me. I didn't really, I was just assuming industry, going into industry kind of thing. And it was like at Laterno, their mission, it talks about every workplace, every nation, basically saying that anywhere you're at, you can be a light for Christ. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'll be a light in industry. I'll just, go into industry and then, just proclaim the gospel in industry at my workplace or whatever kind of thing, which that was more my thinking of not asking. I wasn't really asking the Lord where He wanted me to go, or like listening to where He wanted me to go. It was more like, I think I want to go into industry, so I'll convince, the Lord that I can go into industry by saying, oh, I'll proclaim the gospel in the workplace or whatever kind of thing. So, which, is not, you go where the Lord tells you, but it's not where you can bargain with the Lord kind of thing, where you want to go kind of thing. So because I was wanting to go in industry because it would be financially secure, all of that kind of thing. I would get to do the engineering that I loved, and really it was kind of just like during that time it was just a lot of applications, a lot of closed doors and stuff like that. And like really it was my kind of a little bit of my pridefulness, like being prideful a little bit, because it was like, I just, Laterna is a really good engineering school. I just did this really difficult degree. So I was wanting to almost be like, hey, I have, made this accomplishment that I can get a job kind of thing on an industry or whatever. And it wasn't really like, it was just kind of like just applying for anything. And also like I wasn't applying for the super low level. That was also a part of pride, because it was like, well, I've done all of these things in college. Like I don't have to be in that beginner, like really big, slow level kind of thing.
Sure.
But so a lot of that was just wrestling with that, wrestling with future and doubts, because it was like I applied for a lot of jobs and all of them were closed. Like the doors were closed. I got some interviews and stuff like that, but the Lord was kind of directing my steps, working on my heart kind of thing, preparing me for what he had in mind for me. So
Yeah.
Like job by job, application by application, what were you thinking through that time? I mean, how were you processing, oh man, I thought that interview was good, but they're going elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I kind of was like, okay, I guess the Lord doesn't want me to go that way. Okay, maybe does he even want me to go into engineering kind of thing? I was like, a lot of that kind of like questioning, like, well, does he even, is he listening to my prayers kind of thing at the moment? But like he was listening to me. I was just not listening to him kind of thing. But it was like, it was more, a lot of that was just, my mindset was focused so much on getting a job in industry. I wasn't asking, is the Lord wanting me in industry? And a lot of that was just like a lot of wrestling with those emotions, like that, you feel down or whatever. You're like, okay, maybe I'm, maybe this degree wasn't as worth it or stuff like that. Like, it's like a lot of doubts kind of thing as I was walking through that after that summer, through that summer as well as I was after graduation kind of thing. It was just like, Did
you have people in your life you could talk with about these things?
Yeah, so I did talk to them, and they encouraged me and helped me through those times, and told me to pray and seek the Lord's guidance and direction kind of thing. So, it was, but with any advice, you can take it or leave it kind of thing. True, so it's like, sometimes I was like, I don't really want to listen to right now kind of thing, but
it's easy to know that a whole different thing to apply it and really hold that open hand, like, Lord, wherever you want me. It's hard to do that. Yeah,
because I was being pretty stubborn and saying I want to be in industry, even though it seemed like the Lord was not leading me into industry. So
So that summer, you're done, you finished, you graduated, you have put in a lot of applications, you're probably still applying.
Yep.
But then I think an opportunity comes up for a ministry trip. What was that, and what happened there?
Yeah, so I was not working at the time. I was still applying for a bunch of jobs. And basically my uncle was going to this church, and he was talking to this person who was going on this mission trip. And they were like, hey, one person can't actually come. Do you know anyone who has food handlers experience and can work in a kitchen on a flat top kind of thing? And he was like,
Chick-fil-A.
Yep. Yeah, so I have worked at Chick-fil-A.
You said my pleasure.
Yep. I've worked at Chick-fil-A. I've worked at a few different restaurants.
Did you make them chicken sandwiches on this trip?
Yes, I actually
Oh, you did? Oh.
But it was just like the frozen one. So it wasn't actual chicken and all that. But yeah, so basically what happened was, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before the trip happened, my uncle got me in touch with this guy who was like in charge of the trip kind of thing. I talked to him and told him my testimony, told him about, just the typical preparation for if they were, figuring out if you want to go on a mission trip kind of thing, and getting to know him a little bit. And then he was like, okay, we want you on the trip. It's this date. And it was like, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks away kind of thing. So then I show up on the day that we were leaving, bunch of strangers, and got in the car, drove I think it was 12 hours to Arizona, and then worked with them for 1 week at a camp for the Navajo kids. So it was basically a VBS kind of thing. We were doing like a Bible camp kind of thing. So we were providing meals to them and sharing the Bible stories with them and all that. Mm-hmm. So I initially had committed for 1 week of service, and then I would be go back. But then things happened where people got sick, and then other things happened. So then they were like, Ethan, can you stay for the second week? Mm-hmm. I was like, sure, why not?
There's that flexibility again.
Yeah,
right. Flexibility.
And the next week was being run by a different church. So only the kitchen staff stayed. So it was, just a few people I knew from that first week, and then a whole new staff of church people and stuff like that running the second week, because the second week was older kids, so it was like high schoolers and stuff like that. And then the first week was elementary to, I think, middle school. But so younger kids. So it was like split a little bit different. But really, that was all just. I at that point in the summer, I had kind of come to the point with the Lord where I was like, okay, I'll just surrender and do whatever you want me to do, kind of thing. Because I was like, that was kind of midway through the summer, so I'd been doing a lot of applications and stuff like that. And then I was just kind of at the point where I was like, okay, I'll just surrender and do whatever you ask me to do, Lord, kind of thing. So then when that opportunity came up, I was like, okay, let's just do it. Let's jump in. And really, like, I was praying through that week, those 2 weeks kind of thing, where the Lord wanted me to go. And my old boss, he, from Mobberly Baptist Church, he said, called me during that week on that mission trip. He was like, hey, I'm stepping down from my position. I've recommended them to bring you back to help them train or whatever kind of thing.
So this is Upward Sports, right?
Yeah.
Upward Sports, yeah. So
that would be the Upward Sports. So then a few weeks after that Arizona mission trip, I got a call from the executive pastor at Mobberly Baptist Church saying, hey, could you come up for the fall semester and then help train this guy up to run the Upward Sports Ministry, because we don't actually know what we're doing, kind of thing. So, so then for that fall semester, I went up there. They provided housing and paid me to, but like it was like just those moments of when I got to that point when I was like, okay, I'll surrender and do whatever you call me to do, Lord. Those were when the obedience needs to come in. So like the action afterwards. So you can say those words, but you need to take those actions after you've surrendered to him and stuff like that. But you need to first get to that point of surrender. But then next you need to move to the action part. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting thinking how the Lord worked there in that situation. And, it wasn't how you wanted it. It wasn't necessarily what you were hoping, to get this job in industry. But you said, you know what, Lord? Open hand, what is the step you want from me? And then it was kind of like interesting how quick those things took place. It was like, okay, stay another week at this Navajo camp. And then all of a sudden this guy calls and says, hey, come to this church and work at Upward Sports Ministry. And Lord just started opening the doors that he wanted you to take at that point. I don't know if it always works exactly like that. I think the Lord works in different ways, but it's pretty cool that the Lord did just direct you clearly as you kind of gave your heart to him and said, you know what, whatever you want me to do next.
Yeah, it was nice that pretty much the Lord kind of just gave me a direct path. He was just like, here's this direction you're going. So like after, like in the summer, in that fall semester, as I reflect on it more, I'm like, oh, he was just directing my steps back towards ministry, that ministry calling kind of thing. He was just putting me in those places of ministry, bringing me back that calling that I had in my junior year to my mind and all that kind of thing. So he was just moving me back to that, and then kind of gave me a clear direction of where to go after that and which is nice. Sometimes he gives you choices and then you have to choose. So,
And this was just last fall.
yeah.
This was last fall. So we're recording this August 2025. And so it was around that time that you sort of rediscovered SonSet Solutions, right? You'd heard about us before.
Yeah, so LeTourneau University has a great connections with SonSet Solutions. So y'all, there's a lot of alumni who work here. They come down for a lot of career fairs and all of that kind of thing. So I knew about them throughout my whole time at LeTourneau. And anytime I heard about them, I was like, oh, that's a cool ministry. Might be a cool opportunity to just serve 1 week or whatever kind of thing. And then I would go back to school. But so after my time with my church serving upwards in the upward sports ministry, all of that kind of thing, I was like, I don't know where to go next kind of thing, because it was okay, I had been applying for some more jobs, because really they only said, we'll do the fall semester, you'll train them up, and then basically that'll be it kind of thing. So I knew that once that season was over, that I would have to figure out what was next. So I was kind of applying for a little bit more jobs. And then the Lord kind of, in that time, he was pointing me to ministry, but I was also getting to more SonSet Solutions came to my mind a few times, and just kind of thing. It was okay, I'll, so at the end of that season, I did the application process, started that kind of thing, because I was well, it doesn't hurt to just apply to another place kind of thing. So, and then everything went super smoothly with that. And then it was I was starting to see okay, the Lord wants me here kind of thing. So, it was a roller coaster, but that's typically how your walk with the Lord goes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ups and downs. There's ups and downs. I mean, yeah, I think you first looked at the Discover program, and that's a 1-year program. It's for people interested in, testing out, is this where God's leading me? What would a career in missions look like? What would full-time missions look like? And you also raise some support, monthly support. You assemble a team around you to pray for you, to give so that you can be here and work full-time. What was that like, raising, the financial support, raising the team of people around you to come here and serve? Yeah,
so that went really well. But my mindset going into that was just, I had already seen the Lord's provision with my dad being in full-time ministry and throughout my life. So I've seen the Lord provide for me all the time. So I was okay, the Lord will provide for me if he wants me to go here. And then he did provide, and it was a month and a half after I started doing support raising until I hit my full support goal kind of thing. So it was just that okay,
was a record to that point. That was a record to that point. I mean, and we have a team of coaches who come alongside you. How helpful was their help?
Oh, it was really helpful just to get trained up in a proper way of thinking about ministry partners and looking for raising support and stuff like that, because you could go into it with a wrong mindset where it's just I'm begging for money or whatever kind of thing, or you could go into the mindset of I'm bringing people alongside the God's work kind of thing. So it was really helpful, just the resources that were provided, and all the weekly discussions with David Palmer and stuff like that, just talking about how to raise support, and then also just getting encouragement from that as well, because it's it is a difficult time to do support raising, but with the right mindset and people around you helping you and encouraging you with it, it goes much smoother. So
it's amazing to see God's provision. I know Cody and I have gone through that process too, and you just see how the Lord provides, and it was really encouraging even for us to hear how fast you raised the support. I think everyone was celebrating with you when you got that in a month and a half.
It made me very sure that the Lord wanted me here. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been here now a few months. What and you get to actually apply now. You're engineering in ministry. What are like what's a project that you're working on right now?
So we've been working for the past few months, almost most of the time I've been here, on this new version of our SonSet Link water monitors. And basically it has a lot more sensors, a lot more data points, and a lot more collection stuff. So a lot more advanced than our other one. So I've been helping with that, develop the firmware, some of the PCB stuff. And then, right now I'm currently working on getting some Wi-Fi modifications for our SonSet Link monitors. So.
And what's the point of SonSet Link? What do they do?
So they basically monitor these water pumps or wells or boreholes and stuff like that to help our ministry partners to see if they need repairs. So they're typically on a rotation. They're going through to check these pumps or boreholes or whatever to make sure everything's still providing clean water. But what happens if it breaks down right after they leave or whatever kind of thing? Then that'll affect the ministry. That'll affect the proclamation of the gospel and all that kind of thing, because it's like, okay, well, you were providing clean water, but now you're not, and that'll affect our witness. So what our technology, our SonSet Links are doing is monitoring those systems so that our partners are informed of when things break faster, so then they can get in and a lot of the times before even the people know about the.
That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's really cool about the project? I mean, I think it's interesting for engineers who are maybe listening to this, because I was, as an engineering student, when I first thought about engineering and missions, I kind of thought that meant like building roads in Africa, or doing construction or something like that. It's like, well, I'm an electrical engineer with kind of a background in electronics. It's like, I don't know, that probably doesn't play into missions. That's what I thought. But here we go. You're working on this project, embedded programming, PCB board layout. You're doing all these, pretty technical, heavy things in the focus of advancing the gospel. And it's a pretty cool tie-in to see that happen.
Yeah, I initially was like, what is a computer engineer going to do for ministry? Because I had a disconnect from technology and ministry work, because I was like, okay, technology is typically things that distract you from like the gospel or ministry in our culture, at least, in American culture kind of thing. But it's like, it can be used. It's just a tool that can be used for anything. So.
That's a great point, and I love thinking philosophically about that, because that's key to our ministry. Is what we realize is that technology multiplies impact. Technology is a force multiplier. It allows you to do more with less effort. Technology underpins all ministry all over the world. I mean, every form of ministry, whether it's one-on-one, you're using some form of transportation to get to that meeting. Maybe it's by radio and you're one to many. You're speaking into a microphone and you're talking to a lot of people. Preaching, teaching, I mean, everything. Technology underpins it all. And I think it's accelerating, and we see that. We see technology accelerating. I want to see us, and we're working toward being on the front of this and being able to cast vision for the use of technology in missions and in advancing the gospel, rather than being on the back foot, being afraid, saying, oh, technology is powerful and look how it can be used for evil, and kind of staying hands off. No, get engaged, get hands on, use technology to advance the gospel. Let's capture that. Let's redeem that and use it to show people who Jesus is. Yeah. So I get a little fired up about that. Right?
Yeah. It's great. We got to have some episodes of brainstorming, like an AI or something, brainstorm in missions, or that's some pretty cool things. So, God's still guiding you. You're just taking one step at a time, trusting where the Lord leads. How would you encourage somebody considering thinking about ministry? Maybe they're in your shoes back in your senior year or even your junior year. How would you encourage that person?
I would say get to the point where you will completely surrender yourself to the Lord and be completely willing to do whatever he asks. Because once you get to that point, then you can take action. that's when you can move and don't be like what I was, where I didn't take action on the calling. So it's take action whenever you feel the Lord moving you to some, and it can be the small things. So it's like, okay, let's pray for this person right now. Okay, let's just take that action. Just those small steps, those small action steps of just submitting to the Lord, obeying Him will help you, pursue more different things. And then you realize as you are doing those small action steps, you're just doing small steps of ministry that the Lord is, and then eventually you might be doing bigger ministry stuff. But yeah.
I think that's the biblical example. So many stories where God needed folks to prove they were faithful in the small things. And I mean, that's the parable, we hear from Jesus. If you're faithful in a little, you become ruler over much. So it's just being faithful in the small things, step by step. That's good.
Yeah, it's powerful. Are there any resources, maybe books that you think of, or I don't know, sermons, videos that you saw that you would find encouraging that maybe point people to?
I don't know. A lot of the way I came to this understanding and all that was just reading the scriptures in the Bible. So, but one book that I read was The Pursuit of Holiness by Jerry Bridges, which was a very practical, hands-on way to live a Christian life kind of thing and pursuing holiness and all of that. And basically when you're pursuing holiness, you're pursuing Christ, those practical ways, then it starts feeding into all your other aspects of your life kind of thing. So it's when you are right with the Lord, then you can be right with all your other lifestyles and other things. And then, when you because that's your focus on the Lord kind of thing. Once you're focused on the Lord completely, it's just, the practical things happen afterwards kind of thing. So, yeah.
It's a good book. I remember, convicting book. I read that when I was recently graduated too. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, Ethan, thank you, brother. This has been really good. It's been a pleasure to serve with you. We've served on the same team, and been so thankful for you. You filled in some significant gaps in our team, and God's brought you just the right time. I think of that big project you talked about that we're still cranking on, and being able to deploy these units, by far our most advanced model of Sunset Link. Very thankful for you. It's a joy to be able to talk with you.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you all.